Hello. It's nice to be here with you guys. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Who's here for the first time here at Alcance English? Raise your hand if it's your first time. Welcome. Oh, you guys are here first time. Are you guys from, who's already from our church? Like, I'm from Alcance, but this is the first time at the service. All right. And if you're not from our church, you're just here randomly. Like, you're in this. Anybody like that? Okay. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. It's nice to have you guys here. So, introduce myself. I'm Petrus. I am married to a wonderful girl, Sophia. We've been part of Alcance now for almost a decade, 9 years. She's not here tonight because she's home with our daughter, who was born exactly 30 days ago. Her name is Sarah, so my girls are at home right now, and I'm here with you guys. It's a blessing to be here. And this message that I brought for you guys, I was actually supposed to preach last service, which was on May 14th, but my daughter was born on the 11th. And I was like, I can't preach, right? And God sent Rebecca from the other side of the world, just very coincidentally, to be here with you guys. And you can see God's provision in that, right? Yeah. All right, guys. So before we get started with the message, I wanted to do a fun little game with you guys. What is a word in Portuguese that does not exist in English? Can you guys open my slides, please? So feijoada. Next slide, please. Feijoada, saudade, right? There are some cool ones. I got a couple here tonight. I want to try to translate with you guys. Next slide, please. The first one. So, how would you say calorento in how would you say calorento in English? Huh? How would you say that in English? How would you describe it? Huh? I feel so hot right now, right? Do you guys have the slide? Yeah? Okay, well, we'll continue. Calorento. So how would you say calorento in? I'm always hot, right? Yeah? Warmful. That's a good one. How would you say caprichoso in English? Someone who always does a good job. How would you say that? Caprichoso. Like a neat person? Not neat? No? How would you say cheiroso? Smelly is when it's bad, right? Good smelling, right? But I have one here, I have a word here, which is, I think, my favorite. Chato. Chato. Right? So the cool thing about this word chato is that you have to use a lot of different words to really capture it in English. Because someone who is chato can be demanding, right? The person's really demanding. Oh my God. The person can be really annoying, right? Can be a boring person. Are there any English teachers here? Teach English. That's always something people ask. We're like, como fala chato, right, in English? It's like, well, it depends. Here's a cool word for you guys. Unbecoming, right? It's not inconvenient. Inconvenient is a false cognate, right? So the person's unbecoming, chato. But if I were to translate it in my own dictionary, I would say the person is hard to love, right? Don't look at your neighbor right now. Please don't look at them, right? We all know people that are hard to love, right? We all know people that are hard to love. Can you think of someone? Maybe it's your neighbor, right? Maybe it's someone at your job. People that are just hard to love, right? Oh my God, they're so annoying. But we've all been people who are hard to love as well, right? Or just me? It's just me, right? And tonight I want to talk about being hard to love. So can you guys go to the next slide, please? So instead of looking at others, thinking about your neighbor or your boss or, that guy in your small group, I want you to think about yourself. how are you hard to love? What makes you chato, right? So I don't have the survey to put on the screen, but they did a really cool survey in the UK asking people, why do you hate Christians? And the first answer was because they're hypocrites, right? That's obvious. But the second answer was because they're annoying. Wow, these people are so annoying, right? They're hard to love. And what I want to do tonight is look in the mirror. What makes you chato, right? What makes you hard to love? Proverbs 139 says, the psalmist asks God, point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. So what is offensive in my heart that needs to change, right? So there are two words in English that are pretty cool. There's loving, which is the active love, right? And if you've been at Alcance for, more than a day, we're really good at that. We take care of the homeless people, and we have a widow ministry, and we help a lot of people trying to get out of drugs. And so we're very loving, the active verb. But there's another one, which is an adjective, which is lovable. Are you a lovable person? Is it easy to love you? Is it easy to love you? Right, that's just it's a great question. Can you go to the next slide? I really believe that, when we have Jesus in our hearts, he doesn't want just to change our character or our behavior. He also wants to transform our personality, right? He really wants to transform our personality. So now the cat picture, please. It's hard to love people who are always grumpy and argumentative, right? And writing this sermon, I just want to be clear that I was thinking about myself the entire time. I wasn't thinking about anybody. This isn't an indirect message to someone in the room. It was just me looking at the Bible and thinking, man, I got to improve, right? So a couple of months ago, we had a really difficult political election, right, for presidency. And I just got so lost in it. I was so annoying about it and just argumentative with every single person that I could talk to. Who else was like that, right? Christopher? Yeah, you were like that too? And I just remember like a week before the decision was made who would be the next president, I was just getting in fights with everybody, just getting into these arguments as if my speech could change their opinion, right? As if I could somehow have this amazing conversation and, I'll vote for the other guy now, right? And I just remember opening the Bible, and Proverbs 20 says, any fool can start arguments. The honorable thing is to stay out of them. Are you an argumentative person? Do you get into arguments all the time? Stop it. It's not Christian. It's an honor to stay out of arguments, right? Petrus, what about defending our principles and our morals and our children? Yeah, let's do it. But there's a good Christian way to go about it, right? There's a time and there's a place and there's a way to do it. But most of the time, we're just arguing over what? What are we trying to accomplish? Nobody in the history of the world and any democratic nation has ever changed their opinion because they had a Facebook conversation, right? This meme, oh my God, I'm not leftist anymore, I'm right-wing now. Like, that's never happened, ever. And we think it works, And so sometimes I'm on Instagram and I was like, I'm gonna share this. And I just think it's an honor. The honorable thing is to stay out of arguments, right? The next slide, right? So it's hard to love people who are always argumentative, but it's hard to love people who are grumpy. Proverbs 12:16 says, fools show their annoyance at once, but the prudent overlook an insult, right? So how easy is it to irritate you? How easy is it to irritate you? How long does it take? 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds? How long does it take, right? That's something I'm noticing about me. We have a little girl now, and she cries. It's a baby and has colic, and it's just normal life, right? And there's such thing as sleep deprivation, right? So if I say anything that offends anybody, blame it on the sleep deprivation, okay? But I just find myself all the time thinking, man, should I really be annoyed about this, right? I mean, this is just the most amazing thing in my life. Should this annoy me? Or should this offend me? And I always think about that the prudent overlook an insult. It's not that they don't notice it, right? So I'm looking, and I overlook. I see it, but I look up. I overlook the insult, right? And we see Jesus doing it all the time. You know, there were a lot of people that followed him because they honored Jesus, but there are a lot of people that just didn't do that. And so I just imagine him walking around and always overlooking insults. I was just looking up. I have a better place to look, right? I'm going to overlook this insult. Number 2, it's hard to love people who are always making fun of others, right? Oh man, this is tough for Brazilian culture, right? Oh yeah. Let me drink some water before So I grew up in the States. I am Brazilian, but my family lived in the States for about 14 years. That's why I have this terrible American accent, right? Where are you from? England. He's from England. And it's funny because there are certain things that you can make fun of in Brazil that you can't make fun of in the States. And there are certain things that you can make fun of in the States that you can't make fun of in Brazil. So one thing when I came to Brazil, which I always thought was really interesting, is that if you're Asian, if you're Japanese here, it's totally okay for someone to call you Japa. Well, Japa, right? That's fine. There are people who introduce themselves, like the guy's name is like, I don't know, Douglas, I don't know, or something. And the person says, call me Japa, right? So but in American context, like you're gonna get canceled, right? Like you would be canceled before cancel culture if you just went up to someone, called them, hey, like Japa. Am I right? Right? So I mean, making fun of others, there are things that are culturally acceptable. And as Christians, we have to be happy, right? I mean, I make fun of everybody. So this one's for me. I'm always just playing around. But there is a point where it makes you unlovable, where it makes you the most annoying person in the world. Yeah. Can you go to the verse? Proverbs 11, whoever derides, there's a new word for you guys. Whoever derides the neighbor has no sense. Whoever derides their neighbor has no sense. But the one who has understanding holds their tongue. Right? So I just, I think about Solomon, who is the one who wrote this proverb, King Solomon. You know, he's making all these crazy political decisions and building temples, and there's so much wisdom that he could have written down, and he goes and he says, don't make fun of other people, right? So there's a really cool American expression is that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? And I feel like that's what Solomon was trying to say. And when we do this as Christians, we always put people in a really awkward position when we deride them, is that they have to play like it doesn't offend them, right? They have to pretend like, oh, that didn't offend me. But it creates a barrier, right? It creates a barrier with that person. Can you go to the next verse? If you are wise, your wisdom will reward you. If you are a mocker, you alone will suffer. So mocker. Is the verse there? Oh, yeah, good. I had a really sad experience with this here at church. I think it was like 2 years ago. There's a friend of ours who serves in the parking ministry. And we were just starting off the welcome Integra, right? And I was there coordinating Integra, and he was in the parking ministry. And we were trying to figure out the processes, and he's a really shy guy. He's really shy. And he had to help us with the welcome ministry at one point, and it was just really tough for him. And he got really nervous. And when he went away, me and other friends of his, we're all friends, we were just making fun of him, like, and it lasted about 30 seconds. About an hour later, another guy, a very wise, older Christian man here at the church, said, "Hey man, what are you doing? Yeah, come on. What are you doing? You're in the welcome ministry and you're making fun of other people. What's wrong with you?" And I just remember thinking, man, first of all, thank God this is a mature man of faith, because he could have gossiped, right? This could have turned into a very ugly situation. And he was just so wise, and he says, "Hey, that's not how we do things." And he gave me this verse: "If you are a mocker, you alone will suffer," right? I guess the biggest consequence of being that kind of person is loneliness, right? Because you just keep people away every time you make fun of them, right? Number 3, this is, guys, again, this is for me. This sermon I wrote for me. It's hard to love people who talk too much and listen too little, right? Raise your hand if that's you. If you talk too much and listen too little. Man, the Bible, I mean, you can't even pretend, right? Can you go to the verse? "The one who talks much will for sure sin." I mean, for sure sin. "But he who is careful with what he says is wise." This actually happened like a couple months ago. I had my headphones, and I ordered an Uber. And I was listening to this music, and I had the headphones on and the cell phone. And I got into the Uber, and the guy, he was really friendly. I guess he wanted to talk. And I wasn't in the mood. I didn't want to talk to him. So I was like, you know that face? Okay. And then like 2 or 3 times he tried to tell me something, but every single time I was like, headphones, I'm sorry. And when I got out of the Uber, the headphones were never connected to my phone. The entire time I was playing the music on the phone, not on the headphones. And the Uber driver was trying to tell me that. He's like, "Hey man, it's disconnected." And I was like, I can't hear you. Next verse, please. "He who answers before listening, this is his folly and his shame." And I wish that was the first time that ever happened to me, where I didn't listen, right? And it always happens with Ubers for some reason. Another time, this is the worst one. I got in the car, and I also had my headphones on. I was texting, and I closed the door, and the guy said something, "Porta." And I thought, because I usually do this, I didn't close the door well enough. So I opened the door and and the guy stops the car and he's like, "Eu tinha falado que você tinha batido a porta forte a primeira vez e você bateu de novo." So imagine I get in the car and I open it again, I close the door, And the guy made me get out of the car. He's like, get out of my car. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. And it would be great if that only ever happened in Ubers, right? If like geographically the only place that I didn't listen was in Uber cars, right? That'd be great. But that happens so much in my relationships, in my life with my family. Are you listening to people in your life? Are you listening? Are you paying attention to the people around you? Right? Can you go to the verse? The next one, I'm sorry. It's hard to love people who only want attention. It's hard to love people who only want attention. Now, when we talk about this, we usually think of like extroverted people. But being in ministry, we know that this happens a lot with introverted people as well. Some people just want to talk to you because they want your attention. They don't care about you. They just want the attention that you give them, right? Can you go to the phrase, to the verse, I'm sorry. Don't be selfish, Philippians 2. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. So here's a test. This is a test to see if you are the type of person that can actually have friends. Because a lot of us don't have friends, okay? Some people, they have acquaintances, but they don't have friends. Here's the test if you have friends, okay? I go up to you, I say, hey, what's your name? Petrus. What do you do? An English teacher. Where do you live? I live in Água Verde. Yeah. Are you married? Yeah, I'm married. Sophia, I have a daughter. What's wrong with that conversation? I only answer, but I show no interest in the other person. If you do that, I can guarantee you don't have friends. Because nobody likes to talk to podcasts. Right? Are your conversations podcasts? Is it a podcast? Like, sometimes I talk to people, I'm in a conversation, and I think, why did I leave my house for this? Why didn't the person just send me an audio message? I feel like that could have been easier, right? Can you go to the next verse? Do not be wise in your own eyes. So I feel like that's the big problem, is that we think we're so interesting. Oh my God, I'm so interesting. My life, they should write a book about it. And I need to tell you about the book. My life is amazing. And Solomon, again, he's building temples and richest, wisest man who ever lived. And let me write this down. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Right? Because it's people like that are so tough to get along with. Remember what I said. This is for you to look in the mirror. Right? Lord, point out what's offensive in me, okay? If you are a lonely person, this is probably why. If you're a lonely person, if you don't have enough friends, you probably have a really big victim mentality. Oh, people don't like me. People are tough. Dude, no, you're not lovable. Because 2023, everybody's lonely. Everybody wants a friend. People are making artificial friends on ChatGPT, for God's sakes, right? People need friendship. If you are a lonely person, it's your fault. You got to get better. You got to be better. You got to listen more. You got to take an interest in people. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. The reason you don't have quality relationships is because you are hard to love. And you need to look in the mirror and ask God, point out what is offensive in me. Point out what is offensive in me because I want to be lovable. Can you go to the next slide, please? Whenever you're in a conversation, the next time you're talking to anybody, okay? The next time you're having, choose to be interested instead of being impressive. A lot of the times when you get into conversations, we think that we need to impress people. Yeah, because I own an English school and I lived in the States like 15 years, and I also, I have a cool apartment and my car. No, you don't need to impress people, right? People who have friends are people who are interested. The more interested you are in the other person, the more they will like you. You don't have to tell a single thing about yourself. If you go up to someone and you truly show interest, hey, what's your story? Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I heard about that. And how about this? And you just have the conversation be about them. And you show real, genuine interest, and you listen. You're not listening so that you can think of what you're going to say, right? You're listening because you're interested. Oh, this is interesting. And it's so sad because, especially in the Christian world, we will listen to 7 hours of Luciano Subirá. He's an amazing guy. I love him. I love this church. His ministry has blessed me. But we will not listen to the guy in our small group. Right? 7 hours straight podcast, Jesus culture. Oh, this is so interesting. But you don't listen to your friends. What's wrong with you? You are the reason you're lonely. Take an interest in other people. It's nice that my mom is here today. Raise your hand. Grandma. If you ever see her, don't call her by her name. Just say vovó. She loves it. I have a really cool story. When I was 17, I got a job in the States at a bank. And I was a teller. What is teller? Caixa de banco, right? So I was a teller, and the teller next to me was this kid from my high school. He's a Chinese guy. His name is Sunny Wang. That's his name. It's not a joke. His name was Sunny Wang. And Sunny Wang was hard to love, man. He was so hard to love. He was awkward and just really annoying and just didn't listen. And he was so demanding and he always wanted attention and he was so hard to love. And I got this job, and every day I would come home and I would be like, man, Sunny Wang. Sunny Wang, let me tell you about Sunny Wang. And my mom one day was like, hey, why don't you invite him over for lunch? And I did. And 1, 2, 3 hanging out days later, he became one of my best friends. 2017, I had already been back in Brazil. And I invited a lot of my friends from the States to come down to my wedding. The ones that I loved, the really cool guys that were super fun, they didn't even answer. But guess who booked a ticket and came down to my wedding? Sunny Wang, okay? Can you go to the next slide? And the cool thing about Sunny is, he taught me that people who are hard to love need to be loved before they become lovable. So Sunny was chato, man. He was a hard guy to love. And when we started to love him, Sunny gave his life over to Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. And he was like first generation Chinese. His entire family came to watch him get baptized. Wow. And very coincidentally, he actually had his first daughter the same week that my daughter was born. And so first of all, I thank God I had a really wise mom, right? And second, I'm glad that I gave him a chance, right? You know, Christ first loved us so we could love others. And what was hard to love in me and what was hard to love in Sunny Wang, iron sharpened iron, right? Because it isn't what's good in you. It's what's bad about you. And when we're in contact with other people, that's how we're changed. That's how we're changed. When we start to love others that are really hard to love, right? So let's go the next slide. So I want to leave you guys with 2 challenges, okay? Especially if you're a lonely person. Man, I don't have any friends. If you're that guy, this is the challenge I have for you. The first challenge is I want you to ask questions, okay? Ask questions. How do I become friends with, I don't know, Lewis over here? Lewis, raise your hand. Ask him a question. Hey, Lewis, what's going on, right? You're going to find out that his wife is pregnant and they're excited for it. And then you ask him, how's the baby room coming? I don't know. And then that's how a friendship begins, right? What you cannot do is this. Hey, Lewis, oh, your wife's pregnant. Yeah, my sister's pregnant too. Yeah, she's going to have the baby in May. And we were thinking about, No. Your wife's pregnant. Wow. What? Ask questions. The Bible tells us that the purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out, right? Friendship is drawn out, like you're taking water from a well. You draw it out. That's how you draw out friendships. So the first challenge that I have for you is ask questions. Go up to somebody, it's like, hey, I heard that you're an architect. What are you working on? I don't know, ask something. It doesn't really matter what you ask as long as you are genuinely interested, right? You know, by getting to know Sunny, did I really understand why he was so hard to love, Sunny Wang? You know, I started to learn more about his family and his culture. There's a Chinese kid in America, that's hard enough. And when we start to draw out people's hearts, we start to understand why they're hard to love. We start to understand it. Oh, that's why. And when we look at our own past and our own hearts, we start to understand why we are so hard to love, right? Yeah. Next slide, and this is the last one before we finish. So Solomon, again, it's crazy. When you read Proverbs, it's crazy to think that this guy knew just about everything. And he didn't write like how to get rich quick. Slide up, click on my ad. He didn't write, all these things. He wrote about relationships. Most of Proverbs is relationships, if you really take a look at it. And so he's talking about wisdom and how do I make my friend, how do I make another person more wise, right? How do I make that person more lovable? And so Solomon gives us the blueprint here. He says, let all who are simple, chato, right? Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and you will live. Walk in the way of insight. So the first challenge is ask questions. The second challenge, invite people to your house, right? People in our small group, you always hear these little things, and in church, not just our small group, like, I wasn't invited. I wasn't invited. Okay, sure. Do you have a house? Invite people there. So if you are here in this place and you are a lonely person, walk away with 2 challenges. Ask questions, invite people to your house. If you are blessed to have a lot of friends, it's the same 2 challenges. Ask questions. Where's your Sunny Wang? Right? Who's your Sunny Wang? And invite him to your house. Because some of the best friendships that I've ever had have been with really chato people. Right, Rafa? Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's pray. Jesus, thank you for every person here, Lord. I thank you for every listening ear. Lord, that we can look in the mirror and apply these words to our own life. Apply these words to our own situation, to the people in our lives. Lord, show us the people that are hard to love and help us love them so that they can become lovable. And Lord, put people in our lives that can love us so that we can become lovable, God. Thank you for every single person here. Lord, I pray that you create new friendships and that you start off just new adventures in relationships for each person here, just a new moment of love and companionship, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So before you go, okay, this does not have to be in English. Petrus, é que eu escuto melhor do que eu falo. You can be in Portuguese. Ask a question to someone. Hey, what's your name? Just ask a question and be genuinely interested in that person. That's the point of this ministry, all right? Amen. All right, God bless you guys.